Does Quiet Place Day 1 manage to sneak up on us with a big surprise? Welcome to Cinema, where we focus on a film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of A Quiet Place Day 1. Is it good, was it bad, or somewhere right in the middle? Or if you're waiting for this review to help you decide if you're going to see it or not, make sure to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe and are ready to join the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. But going right into the synopsis. As New York City is attacked by aliens who hunt by sound, Eric and Samira travel across the city fighting for their lives and going on to get some pizza. And going into the positive, this film is creative in its uses, what it's going after with the Quiet Place franchise, taking in a day one, taking us to New York City, as is the popular place for horror franchises to often go to, whether it's Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and just all of those that play in on the big city scale of it. That makes it unique and clever with it, what it utilizes with its camera work and everything done with just the busyness of the city. This one is, of course, taking in the sounds of New York City, being super populated and large in its scale, and so it narrows in the focus on this one girl, Samira, for most of the film. And what that all has to play in, it has a slower start that takes the time to build up what we're getting out of it. And so where you're headed with this film builds on some fairly compelling characters, especially as we build toward the latter half of the film, and their threat is still as big as it should be, and there's some different scares along the way that really deserve their place, because you're building in on the silence and the loudness of everything that is going about the bustling city, the fear of just hearing the smaller noises that could amplify things a lot more. The music does have its play in what can really pull off the antics of just what you get out of the Quiet Place type of genre or idea that you're going into. And Joseph Quinn and Lupita Nyong'o is great for their lead roles, and just how they meet is fairly well done. And adding in Frodo the cat into the mix, he's a cute little companion that really helps aid in the film. Add in some lighter moments, some sweet, endearing moments along the way that you can feel for the threat of their lives, because there's high stakes going on, especially taking place in New York City. So how that comes about, and the fun little unique adventure just going on pizza hunt within the middle of the apocalypse just becomes hilarious by its own standards. And just how that all pans out goes on a nice journey that takes its time to unravel its plot and build upon its characters. And so what we have to be handed by Michael Sarnoski as the director, what everything is doing, it has great cinematography for its own means, and what we earn from this has the right horrific moments of deserving each of its scares, each of its heroic characters that you build up, leading to an ending that can be surprising to its own nature that I won't spoil, but it has its own place of earning its right, of giving you what you want and giving you things you're not expecting, which makes it kind of a surprise as the own film for the nature of what it's offering. Which leads me right into mixed offer elements, which is that this film, it doesn't offer anything too unique or clever for the Quiet Place franchise. Because I go along the lines of, yes, they're taking it into New York City, which is more of a populated place that really works on the flavors of just what would happen if you take the horror icons and put them in there. But for this horror icon of sorts, it's not really an icon taking in these unnamed monsters that hunt by sound and really pull them into the city. It works because New York is populated and it's the loudest place. but it's not necessarily clever in its wits of what it pulls off, because you already have other sounds within A Quiet Place 1 and 2 that have their own place within there. And so this film doesn't necessarily presume anything more than what we got in the past. And it also isn't huge in what it's doing, having to build upon these new characters, this new cast that have their own right to be in the film, delivers on what it's trying to go after. And without John Krasinski as the main director of this film, there's a slight different flavor to what is playing off of, especially as the quest to try the New York style pizza, it almost becomes its own meme that's kind of hard to take seriously once they hone in on certain small reasons that lead to where they're headed with the plot, and just the things along the way isn't always urgent, because you're kind of sticking in all of the same places while also not completely having a destination outside of the small stakes that they are really headed toward with these characters. And while you're getting some of their characteristics, a lot of it doesn't come until the latter half of the film, as well as Joseph Quinn's inclusion. They advertise him a lot in the trailer, and unfortunately the trailers can be utilized in the wrong ways, mislead the presumptions you can have about it. And so, yes, I understand that Samira is the main character, and what we're following along with that plays in a great dynamic once you introduce Joseph Quinn's character as Eric, but there's just things that go along the sidelines that just aren't as flavorful or as masterful as what we get from Quiet Place 1 and 2, what they had to offer, and the sequel had to offer. It just doesn't add in a unique element that makes it stand out, makes you remember why this one stands out among the others, outside of just being another added point to the franchise that, even though it's a day one prequel sort of film, it just doesn't really add too much more to the plot that we're getting out of this franchise, or if you're even calling it a franchise, because it's still connected to all the pieces. It's just taking you to another place and doesn't add in too much that really stands out outside of just being placed in another setting that goes on its own side quest that doesn't particularly win my heart over. And if you're expecting any answers to the plot of how Quiet Place 1 and 2 came about, or even how this film is taking its own answers in its own realms, it really doesn't touch on anything of when the aliens have come to Earth, or how, or if something experiment has gone about. It's not the start of a virus that shows you the answers to how an outbreak occurs. It's just suddenly things are happening in New York City. You're not even seeing the direct beginning outside of some things that follow suit after things are happening. And so it just really has a little twist on its own turn that may not be a huge takeaway from what we get from the film as a whole, but it is light in its own genre that really takes it back from being that much more extra special. And so that's just my review on A Quiet Place Day 1, which I have to rate as simply 7 out of 10, where it's very good by its own britches, but it doesn't quite win my heart over by all the nature of what it could have really been, or introducing us to something new. So that's just my personal thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already, join in film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. But that's just all. Make sure to do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.